She couldn't follow a dream that belonged to someone who'd left her behind. The family told Maazin. He called again and again. Every time, she refused to talk, and when she did pick up, she'd listen to his voice for a second, that single second that still made her chest tighten, and then she'd hang up, wordless. Her silence wasn't anger anymore. It was defense. She'd built a wall so tall even her own emotions couldn't climb out. Maazin returned. For the first few days after his return, Hooram became a shadow in her own house. Every morning, she would leave early for university, sometimes before dawn, and return late, her bag slung over her shoulder, her face calm but unreadable. If anyone called her to dinner, she'd smile faintly and say, "I already ate at campus." No one doubted her. After all, everyone could see she'd changed. Except him. Every time Maazin sat at the dinner table, his eyes instinctively looked for the empty chair where she once sat beside him, pouring him water, teasing about how much salt he added to his food. Now that chair remained cold and untouched. He tried not to ask. But one night, he couldn't hold back. "Maazin, she doesn't eat with you all anymore?" Zamer, laughing, "Oh, Hooram? She's changed, bro. Not that chatterbox anymore. Always serious, studying or sketching. She's like a lady in her late 80s now, never eats properly, never laughs. Not the foodie she used to be." Maazin smiled faintly, but his chest tightened. Each word hit him like a weight, pressing harder and harder until even breathing felt like effort. How could he have been gone so long? How could he not notice that he took something with him when he left, and she never got it back? He tried to reason with himself. She's grown. She's moved on. She's fine, but deep down, something in him whispered otherwise. And that whisper was slowly turning into a scream. The house was silent, the kind of silence that only falls after midnight. Everyone was asleep, and the faint hum of the refrigerator filled the dimly lit kitchen. Hooram stepped in quietly, her footsteps soft against the cool floor. She hadn't eaten all day, not because she wasn't hungry, but because her heart wasn't letting her. Her friend's words, his silence, and her own pride had built an invisible wall around her. She turned on the tap, filling a cup, the soft rush of water, the only sound. The moonlight caught her face, no longer the round, laughing face of a girl, but that of a woman. There was grace in her stillness, maturity in her sadness. Her beauty had deepened, calm, dignified, untouchable. And then she felt him, that familiar stillness in the air, the warmth that memory alone couldn't recreate. Her heartbeat faltered. Her fingers froze under the tap. She turned slowly, and time stopped. He stood by the doorway. He looked different, older, steadier, the quiet exhaustion of years etched in the lines near his eyes. His hair was slightly tousled, his stubble darker, his presence heavier. But his eyes, they were the same. That same warmth, that same ache. For a moment neither moved. He was awestruck. The girl he had left behind had turned into something ethereal. Her coldness had only made her more beautiful, like marble carved by pain. She tried to look away, but her gaze lingered on him for a heartbeat too long. The years between them collapsed into one heavy silence. He took a small step forward, voice low and soft, almost trembling. "Maazin," softly, "you still forget to eat when you're upset." The silence stretched between them, fragile and electric. "Hooram," quietly, without looking at him, "you shouldn't be awake this late." He took another step closer. Not too close, but close enough for her to feel the faint warmth of him behind her. "Maazin, I couldn't sleep. Maybe because someone in this house keeps running away from me." Her fingers tightened around the teacup. A tear burned at the corner of her eye, but she blinked it away quickly, hiding it behind her steady voice. "Hooram, I'm not running. He smiled faintly, not the amused kind she once adored, but a quiet, broken one. Maazin, then why does it feel like I have to chase my own peace? That line hung between them raw and unguarded. Her lips parted as if to respond, but she stopped herself, turned slightly toward the counter. She picked up her cup, brushed past him without another glance, her dupatta brushing lightly against his arm enough to send a shiver through him. He stood there, still, watching her disappear down the hallway, her scent of jasmine and distance lingering in the air long after she was gone. He didn't call her name. He couldn't, because for the first time, he realized he wasn't sure if she would turn back. Days folded quietly into weeks. Life at home had settled into a calm routine, at least on the surface. Maazin had buried himself in work, expanding his new business, keeping busy enough to silence the thoughts that refused to rest. And Hooram, she lived like a ghost of her own laughter. But sometimes silence invites the wrong kind of attention. Rahim, Alina's brother-in-law, had started showing up more often at first for business meetings with Maazin, then simply because everyone was used to him being around. No one noticed that his eyes followed Hooram a little too long. She noticed. She always did. It started with small Thin, waiting by the car porch when she came home from university, accidentally bumping into her outside the gate, finding excuses to talk about her classes, her designs, her future. She never encouraged him. Her replies were minimal, her tone distant. But Rahim had that persistence wrapped in gentleness, the kind that looks harmless until it starts to feel suffocating. Once, as she poured tea at a family dinner, he said lightly, "You'll make someone's life very peaceful one day, Hooram." The room had laughed it off, everyone except her. She simply smiled faintly, set the cup down, and walked away. No one noticed the stiffness in her shoulders except Maazin. From the other end of the table, his jaw had tightened. He said nothing, not when Rahim tried to make her laugh again, not when she avoided eye contact, not even when his mother teasingly called her, "our grown-up lady." He just sat there, silent, his gaze unmoving, following her every step, every polite deflection. Something in his chest burned quietly, not just jealousy. It was something deeper. Something that felt like losing her all over again. And Hooram could feel it too, that tension sitting heavy between them, even across the table. But she said nothing, because saying anything would mean admitting she still cared. Thank you for listening. If you like my story, like and subscribe to my channel.